I don't like to read about all this death stuff. Well, there's grace in here. Where do you find grace in chapter 5?
They lived so many hundreds of years.
That's true, Pauline. But
Well, Enoch didn't die.
look at verse 24. Here's a mysterious guy, and it says Enoch walked with God. Now that takes us back to Genesis chapters 1 and 2, doesn't it? So here's a man who chose to trust God. He walked with the Lord. And I don't understand this, so don't ask me to explain it. But evidently, because he chose and dared to trust God, God took him away and he didn't have to die. And by the way, it's test time. I'll throw these little tests out. Okay? There are two people in the Bible who evidently did not die. They were taken to heaven, but they didn't die. Who were they? Enoch and who else? Elijah. Both of them start with an E. So that's easy to remember. Enoch and Elijah. So here in the midst of the death chapter, everybody's dying. Here's a man who said, I'm going to walk with God. I'm going to trust him. And death did not have the final word on his life.
Well, does that mean he took him up physically?
You know, Ruth, I have to believe that. I mean, because obviously with all the others it says, and they died. So the pattern is broken here. So-and-so died, so-and-so died, so-and-so died, and Enoch walked with God, and he was no more. And then so-and-so died, and so-and-so died, and so-and-so died. So by breaking the pattern here, the author is saying to us, this man did not go to heaven through death, but God took him.
It was a virtual.
Oh, like Star Trek?
Like Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, yeah. So he was beamed up, in other words. Okay. So, okay. All right. Oh, we got to hurry. Now, notice, it doesn't only metastasize sociologically and physically, but geologically as well. Chapter 6, 7, and 8, what happens to the entire world? Okay. The whole world becomes so corrupt that God decides to cleanse the world. That's another way of looking at it. Water is to cleanse the world. But God provides a way of deliverance for those who will what? Trust him. And what is that means of deliverance? The ark. Someone has done a comparison of Christ and the ark. It's really interesting. How many doors were there into the ark?
One.
Well,
Okay. Remember Jesus said, I am the door in the book of John. I am the way. So you couldn't climb in the ark. You couldn't say, well, I'm not going in through the door, but I'll find another way in. No. You had to go in through the door. And once you were in, you were safe. So the ark was the means of safety and the means of life in the midst of a horrible geological cataclysm. And we could get we don't have time. We could get into all of this. I've got books in my library talking about the flood. There is geological evidence, even on Mount Everest, that at one time Mount Everest was covered with water. There are marine fossils that they have found even on Mount Everest. So there's evidence that at one time the entire world was covered with water. I think that during that 40-day period, it wasn't just a 40-day drizzle, but I think literally the earth was in upheaval. I think there was tidal waves. Someone has said this. We can't be sure about this, but someone has said that at one time there's evidence that there was a uniform temperature all over the world. For instance, they have found fossils of tropical plants at the North and South Pole. So someone has postulated this theory, that the Earth's axis was such that all over the world there was this uniform temperature, almost like a greenhouse effect, and the Earth was covered with sort of a canopy of vapor, which would have meant then that people could live longer within that environment because there's no ultraviolet rays and all of that kind of thing. So what happened then perhaps was, during the flood, something happened to shift the Earth's axis, whether it was a meteorite hitting the Earth. That's now what the scientists are saying, by the way, was the demise of the dinosaurs. That there was this huge meteorite or something that hit the Earth. Well, as we blend this with this theory, it could hit the Earth, shifts the Earth's axis ever so slightly, which causes this canopy of vapor to condense, and when vapor condenses, it becomes what? It falls to the Earth. All of a sudden, the Earth is in upheaval. There's tidal waves. The continents are breaking apart. All of this is going on.